Daf Yomi, Tractate, Bava Metzia, page 44a, part 2, and now we are starting the fourth chapter of Tractate Bava Metzia, which is called HaZahav, which means the gold. And the Mishnah, there's a little introduction to the Mishnah, and here it is. There is a halachic principle that when one purchases an item, the payment of the money does not affect the transaction. The transaction is affected only by means of the buyer's physically taking the item into his possession. For example, by pulling the item, lifting it up, and there are a few other ways, having it in one's possession. Payment of money by the buyer creates only a moral obligation for the seller to sell him the item. When two types of currency are exchanged for each other, one of the types will have the status of the money being paid, and the other will have the status of the item being purchased. Handing over the former will not affect the transaction, while handing over the latter will. The Mishnah teaches when one purchases gold coins, paying with silver coins, the gold coins assume the status of the purchased item, and the silver coins assume the status of money. Therefore, when one party takes possession of the gold coins, the other party acquires the silver coins. But when one party takes possession of the silver coins, the other party does not acquire the gold coins. In exchange of silver coins for copper coins, when one party takes possession of the copper coins, the other party acquires the silver coins. But when one party takes possession of the silver coins, the other party does not acquire the copper coins. In an exchange of flawed coins for unflawed coins, when one party takes possession of the flawed coins, the other party acquires the unflawed coins. But when one party takes possession of the unflawed coins, the other party does not acquire the flawed coins. In exchange of an unminted coin for a minted coin, when one party takes possession of an unminted coin, an asimon, the other party acquires a minted coin. But when one party takes possession of a minted coin, the other party does not acquire an unminted coin. In an exchange of a coin for movable property, when one party takes possession of the movable property, the other party acquires the coin. But when one party takes possession of the coin, the other party does not acquire the movable property. Zeh haklal, this is the principle. With regard to those who exchange all forms of movable property, each acquires the property of the other, meaning that the moment that one of the parties to exchange takes possession of the item that he is acquiring, for example, by means of pulling, the other party acquires the item from the first party. How so? If the buyer pulled produce from the seller, but the buyer did not yet give the seller their value in money, he cannot renege on the transaction. But if the buyer gave the seller money, but did not yet pull the produce from him, he can renege on the transaction, as the transaction is not yet complete. But with regard to the latter case, the sages said, he who exacted payment from the people of the generation of the flood, and from the generation of the dispersion, mi shepara mi anshe dor hamabel midor haflaga, meaning the Tower of Babel, will in the future exact payment from whoever does not stand by his statement, just as the people of those generations were not punished by an earthly court, but were subjected to divine punishment, so too Although no earthly court can compel the person who reneged to complete the transaction, punishment will be exacted at the hand of heaven for any damage that he caused. Rabbi Shimon says anyone who has the money in his possession has the advantage. The sages said it is only with regard to the seller that payment of money does not affect a transaction. So that if the buyer paid for the item and did not yet take possession of the purchased item, the seller can renege on the sale and return the money. By contrast, once the buyer paid for the item, he cannot renege on his decision and demand return of his money even if he did not yet take possession of the purchased item. Gemara, the Talmud says, Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi would teach Rabbi Shimon, his son, when one party takes possession of the gold coins, the other party acquires the silver coins, consistent with the Mishnah. Rabbi Shimon said to him, my teacher, you taught us in your youth. In the first version of the Mishnah, when one party takes possession of the silver coins, the other party acquires the gold coins. And do you then teach us in your old age, when one party takes possession of the gold coins, the other party acquires the silver coins? The Gemara asks, in his youth, what did Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi hold? And in his maturity, what did he hold? What is the basis for his original opinion, and what led him to change his mind? The Gemara explains, in his youth he held gold coins, which are more valuable, are currency. Silver coins, which are they're not as valuable, they're a commodity. In other words, the purchase item. The principle is, when one party takes possession of a commodity, the other party acquires the currency. In his old age, he held silver coins. Now, okay, that's the end of this page, so